Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim, and our guest today is Okoye. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name is Okoye. I am the founder and creative director of Okoye Communications. I've been around the houses, currently based in Ashburn in Virginia. That's where I live. The office is a bit closer to DC in Tysons. Lovely part of America. I started off life, obviously, I from Nigeria, but I grew up and lived in the UK for most of my life. That's where I set up originally. And then we moved to Lagos in Nigeria. So we have an office there. So we developed an office there. And I'm currently, like I say, based in Virginia, and we have just trying to establish an office here as well. We are what you call a brand consultancy. We're actually a creative agency. We focus on brand transformations, like helping businesses to, find purpose and, to be able to tell their story effectively in order to add value and to grow the business.
So in terms of, your business, right? I mean, branding, that there's obviously so many things to it. I'm curious, do you kind of focus more on certain verticals or what does that look like for you?
We focus on, we don't have a particular vertical. We have traditionally been very strong on fintechs, and also, I know, not related at all, but we do a lot of work for nonprofits, which is an area that I'm passionate on. But we work across many different sectors. Same principles apply across the board. You take the time to understand the industry that your clients are in and how you grow within that industry. But yeah, the principles of, obviously everything we do comes from a position of strategy, trying to understand your target audience, what are their pain points, what your offering is for them, and then to help, to align the two in order to be able to grow in that sector.
Makes sense. And then in terms of location, right? Because you mentioned that you were in the UK, Nigeria, obviously now here in the US. Where do most of your clients, where they located today?
Most of them are actually in the UK, and that's been traditionally our strongest area. We have a lot of workforce. We have like a global workforce in these days. I mean, obviously, like it's becomes less about geographies. So a lot of our strongest developers actually, based in the Philippines. We also use a lot in India as well. A lot of our creative directors are based in the UK, and we have some very good talent in Lagos, Nigeria. I think, is one of the new frontiers. Obviously, like we in the US, offshoring is a big thing, and people have traditionally gone to, India for certain types of skill, but I feel that Africa, and particularly Nigeria, is one of the hotbeds of talent that has been, largely overlooked at the moment. But I feel that its time has come. So we actually have like a huge pool of talent based out of Lagos. We service the, obviously like Lagos and Nigeria market, other markets within Africa as well, like South Africa from there. We also utilize that talent for, certain kinds of work in the UK and the US as well.
For sure. And I think that when it comes to branding, I think that there's still a lot of gaps in terms of like education for companies, right? Because there's so many different branding agencies and also people sometimes try and do it on their own. I'm curious, like just from your perspective, being in this space for a while, like why should somebody engage a branding agency as opposed to like doing it on their own or going on Fiverr or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's, it depends on scale, right? Like you say, you can accountancy, right? There's a lot of work that can be done yourself. Some people like to do their books for small businesses, but as you grow, there's certain things that you will not have the knowledge to be able to do yourself. Branding is, I would say, it's a peculiar thing. There are aspects of it that obviously come from the founder, right? That's part of our job. The founder's vision is to help to take the vision, say, of that founder and to be able to help tell that story from a scale perspective, right? Obviously, like you can't do everything. You can't do everything effectively. Some people, will do everything from naming, coming up with a name for themselves. There are a lot of tools these days that will allow you to create logos, to write ad copy. A lot of people can, even go as far as like doing a lot of the marketing and digital marketing themselves. There's a lot of tools, not just AI, social media has opened up the world to everybody. So it has democratized a lot of communication. Right. But like I say, there are many skills. I wouldn't imagine sitting down and being able to do my own accounting, maybe when I started off, but like there's a certain scale or certain size that you get to, you have to bring in the professionals. And branding, like I say, is something that has become so ubiquitous, right? Everybody thinks that they know or understand what branding is, right? And I think it touches every aspect of our lives, right? So it has changed, it has morphed over the years. It is an essential part of business, right? So you do get the sense that a lot of people will jump in and feel that they know a lot about branding and will want to do it themselves. But like I say, it gets to a scale where if you want to do it properly, you want to do it well, you need to go to the professionals to get a professional product.
For sure. And then in terms of like obviously like, that you mentioned, right, that you live like in the UK, most of your clients are there. Is there a difference between the way that branding is done in Europe, for example, compared to here in the States? Or is it kind of like the same process? Is it more about like industry and objectives?
No, it's the same process, right? It's the same process. We have, I mean, every company might have a different way of approaching it, right? But in essence, it is pretty much the same thing. If I try to explain what branding is to me, and again, like people have different definitions of what branding is, right? I like to, simplify it as much as possible, right? When I'm communicating it to a prospective client. Branding in itself is literally just being intentional, right? About how you craft your image to the rest of the world. That's it. I mean, you can, take the same person. I am a person, you are a person, you have a reputation, you have an image. What branding is ascribing that intentionality to a business, right? Or a service, right? So you take the time to understand that everything that you do is the brand, right? A lot of people will say that branding is the identity part. That is probably like the visual aspect of it. It might be, crafting a logo, right? Or just like talking about the colors, the fonts, the sort of things that people will see, the visual aspect of it. That is an important aspect of it, but it is not the only part of it. That's like 20%. Every touch point, every time that somebody interacts with your brand, you have to be intentional about making sure that you're telling the same story across board, right? So the branding aspect of it, I mean, everything comes from strategy, right? That's the intentionality of it. You sit down and try to understand what it is that you have to offer, right? And what you have to offer to a target audience. And then being intentional about how you tell that story and craft that story across board, right? But like I say, it's about that intentionality, right? About being able to craft and to be able to have a consistent message across every experience that your customer might have with your brand.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to branding, consistency is super important. But I guess also in terms of engagements, right? Because I think many people think, oh, like I might just need branding only when I'm launching a new brand or rebranding. It's like not something that I might need like consistently. So is that kind of how, your agency works? Or do you have people, or do you like, recommend to constantly be iterating and working on this? Because yeah, I feel like it's more than just short-term engagement, to really be effective and to be this behemoth global brand that many people have this vision for.
Sure, sure, sure. Well, it's not everybody's going to be a global brand. And that's okay, right? I think the strongest aspects of branding is actually to understand what your vision is and who your target audience is, right? You oftentimes have to be quite specific. I think branding is also about differentiating, right? If there's one company in town, branding is not as important. As soon as you get two, three different people offering similar services, you have to understand like what makes you different, right? How are you going to stand out from the crowd? Who are your target? It's not everybody's is going to serve the same market. And that comes down to the strategy, the positioning, understanding your values and everything that goes into that strategy before you launch out into the community. And then the branding is not just, I mean, different between the strategic aspect of it, the initial strategy, but I mean, it's not a one-time thing. It's something that you have to constantly keep, referring to at the very least, right? Referring to and refining as you grow. Obviously, your market might have shifted, might have different propositions as a company grow. So it's important to just like always keep that, front and center as the company continues to grow. But with branding is, about communication as well, telling the story, and that's an ongoing thing. Right. So it's never like, create a document and leave it, the top drawer. It's something that is, whether you like it or not, you are constantly branding. Every piece of communication that you put out, every interaction that you as a brand, company or brand has with your target is branding in essence. So you have to keep that on the forefront to continue to, like say, be able to tell your story, be consistent in everything that you do.
For sure. So obviously now we're still in Q1. We're about to wrap up, Q1 here of 25. So what are some of your biggest goals and objectives for the rest of this year?
For us as a company, obviously, like we have just launched into the US. So we have like obviously we've got say our strategic roadmap for growth within the US, leveraging the UK and our office in Nigeria. But it's literally, focus, foot on ground, doing a lot of business development. We have a lot of our own storytelling that we need to be able to do here, to be able to say our own branding and brand communication in order to be able to grow within this market, within this territory. For us, obviously, there are many brand agencies, there are many creative agencies in the US. We feel that our differentiator across board is culture. In essence, right? We are looking not just at like your traditional branding. Our offering is more about brand transformation. So we're very clear about the kinds of companies that we will be targeting. And we feel that culture is one of the key things that will help companies to grow. So when we take on part of our onboarding process and strategic process is to look at how we can use the different cultures that our companies are looking to attract, embed their work into that, and use that as a way to help them to grow faster.
For sure. And then just in terms of your go-to-market here in the US, is it kind of like going to conferences or running ads or something in between? Kind of what is your strategy to really get your name out in the US, since that's kind of like one of your biggest goals for this year?
Yep. I mean, we have a range of different marketing channels that we'll employ. Advertising is critical. I mean, a lot of people overlook the advertising aspect of it. But when you are trying to, obviously attract or to create awareness, then that's one of the key channels. We also will be doing a lot of kind of thought leadership, creating our own content using like LinkedIn, and we, obviously attending a lot of conferences and obviously networking, right? We have a team of, some of our key salespeople that will be networking in this area. We'll be focusing predominantly, obviously, like we have DC down the road. It is a unusual period, let's say, at the moment, but we still feel that there's a lot of opportunity in this area. So we'll start here, expand.
For sure, yeah. DC is definitely a big market. So in terms of, so your business, right? Because you've been doing this for some time. If you could go back in time to before you got started, what is the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew?
The power of networks, right? I mean, it is a cliche, right? That your network is your net worth. Is I have I've come at it. I mean, I originally am a designer. I started off, and I still am a designer. That's my passion. That's how I got into this business. But you have to appreciate, particularly as, if I'm talking to entrepreneurs and people looking to build particularly creative businesses, right? It's very easy to get stuck in the doing, right? And we've had this kind of feast or famine periods where like you get a piece of work, you focus on doing the work, you get so embedded into the work that once it's done, you wake up and think, oh, okay, right, let's the next next piece of work. But it is important to constantly be out there, right? If you want to grow and like say leveraging your networks, right? Being able to, and networking is a skill as well. It's not something that it comes naturally to some people, right? I would say that I'm quite introverted and it's something that I've had to learn to overcome. But if you're the founder and you obviously have to almost be the face of the brand or face of the company as you get, it becomes more important to reach out to people, look to solve issues for people in, also, in every form, every opportunity to reach out and to speak and to, put yourself in situations where you're able to tell your story to people as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think networking, I agree, is super important. I'm the same way. It's not a natural thing for me to go and talk to people, but to your point, Uzo, it is super important for business to again just have those conversations and talk to people. So on that note, if somebody watching this wanted to work with you and wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way for somebody to find you or to find your business?
Sure. Well, obviously, the website is still the best route to reach out. It's etuodi.com, etuodi.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook as well.
Uzo, thanks so much for your time today.
All right. Much appreciated, Dan. Lovely to talk to you.